Good, good, good. Glad to hear it. Soup, welcome. Let's get you up here as well. Brick, howdy.
Doing all right, not too bad. How about yourself?
Doing okay. Just watching another domino fall from this FTX disaster.
Oh god,
Oh, what's the
another.
latest? What's the latest news?
Hold on, let me pull it up so I don't spread misinformation. One second.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to see like how far-reaching the FTX implications have been, but it's just, I mean, we might as well get the bad actors out here, out of the ecosystem now before we get further into it, because we're still so very much early. But it's also really tough to see like the impact that it's had on the overall ecosystem and like mainstream media attention. So,
Yeah,
I,
no, that's a good attitude to have about it. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but like my biggest concern is how much this hurts the reputation of crypto. Like FTX was so public. Like everyone knew about FTX, right? So them being called out as this scam is like, I don't know. I'm worried that normal people are going to be scared to touch anything that has to do with blockchain now. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I mean, did you see the Reuters article? SBF did the banking industry a favor, or did the crypto? Or yeah, he pretty. There was pretty much a Reuters article that went out saying that um, this is good news because crypto's a scam, and everyone should know that, which is just like unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it sucks. I mean, I'm thinking of like FTX had Super Bowl ads and like Tom Brady and they sponsored all these esport teams. Like it's TSM FTX now, right? Like, yeah, it's a bad look. No way around it.
That's for sure.
I think it's pretty hard to control the narrative with just the people that we have now, and the fact that all of these media outlets that are quote unquote controlled by SBF are writing all of these articles, all these fucking puff pieces that are blaming the industry as a whole and not him. Is yeah, that's it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think generally greed will take over humans again, and the major public will still come into crypto, in the near future. But yeah, as of right now, I think the impact is still not yet fully unfolded because same as what happened with 3AC, a ton of people are coming out to say that, oh, we're still solvent, don't worry, we don't have any exposure, and then, oh look, next week another one bites the dust. So I think over the next few weeks we'll see more and more. Even like right now, Genesis is trending because yeah, it's all fucked up. People are not being able to withdraw their assets or whatever.
yeah, was that the latest little bit of Fallout news that's just recently populated the timeline?
Yeah,
Nice. That's so tough to see. I mean, yeah, that's it's super crazy though. I just hope that when people do return into the ecosystem and things do get better, it's more based off of like a sound thesis and like fundamentals that people are actually getting interested in, being like beyond the speculation and hype and the quick flip stuff, and more along the lines of like the technology, the community, or like just things along those lines seems to be a better indicator for like a mature ecosystem. And I'm really just hoping that's the mindset people come back in with. But again, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't foresee this like bear market being over anytime soon. But like, I'm hoping that we come back stronger than ever, and that's just going to be a testament to the builders who maintain their positions in the space and continue to build out through this negative mindset into the positive again.
yeah.
So we'll have to
No,
see.
I think it absolutely has to be the technology now. I mean, in my opinion, we're going through like the growing pain of the NFT space where everyone's hype on profile pictures and like community projects and that like that type of shit. And I just don't see that having mass appeal like pretty much ever unless it's like a large player coming in like Nike or Adidas or something like that. So I think it has to be the technology. Like people are not going to trust this shit. People are not going to try to make money flipping. And like even that, like if you're trying to get mainstream appeal and like what you're selling is like, hey, you can like flip these cartoon pictures. Like that just doesn't make sense at all to me. So yeah, I think it has to be games. It has to be payment solutions. It has to be like real products.
Almost definitely, man. Even yeah, it's funny how you say Nike because Nike. I don't know if you do know that. That's why you brought it up. But Nike is actually coming into the Web3 space, and they're getting, yeah, dude. The Polygon team is insane. I feel like the BD team is on steroids or something. They've got all the big Web2 players to come in, using their network, and it's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
aren't they? They're creating like authentication for their like clothing line, right? Like for their footwears and stuff that's like maintained on the blockchain. Is that what Nike's doing?
I think they're trying to publish a virtual collection, and they're creating a marketplace for it. Um, I have not looked into further than that, but yeah, I think that they do have plans. In during the past year or so, I think they have publicly embraced Web3 and crypto through multiple public facing initiatives. Like they actually filed the related trademarks that they needed. They acquired a NFT startup, and they're hiring devs and all of that.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, that's like really cool to see, though, right? Like that's the type of stuff that we want to see from like a mainstream perspective. Because I think it's been like really interesting overall for the ecosystem to kind of watch as like people first gravitated towards PFPs and like NFTs or the purchasing of NFTs just for that association. Um, but instead, it's like kind of like a backwards way about going and doing that. I feel like for like real use case, you're supposed to like have a platform before at least like some notoriety already within like the ecosystem, traditional Web 2, and like this is throwing it back to like the whole Reddit thing. Like what they did was ingenious, right? And like that's how like true marketing should be done around NFTs and like I guess crypto products in general, like digital asset ownership stuff. So it's a very positive thing to see more of these like Web 2 corporations come into the ecosystem because like the way that I've perceived it this whole time has been like um, what is more valuable for a corporation, right? A physical commodity that requires like finite inputs and has like realistic costs to those inputs that anyone is like not willing to pay above if they understand. Like let's say for example, like a Nike shoe has like the stuff that goes into it, and you have a general baseline of what that's worth to you and like the time that's spent like creating that good, and so they can only mock it up so much, right, for that price. But what's interesting about like digital assets is that that's like an infinitely scaling like price perception that is just based around like the overall user understanding or belief in the valuation of that asset. It's like infinite scaling. So like realistically, like if you were a corporation within the Web 2 space, which one makes more sense for you from a profitability standpoint to get into? You have lower costs to create and also higher margins where you could scale to an infinite level if you just had a large community perception around the price of what you're trying to portray. So it makes so much more sense to me for that to be like where things are going in the future. And so I don't think NFTs are going to go anywhere. It's just going to be interesting to see like how they evolve through the space.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Reddit NFT's success is a very, very interesting concept. They kind of sneaked like NFTs onto people. Um, and we at Catch King with our game, like we kind of have a similar approach where we have like optional blockchain use, or that's where we're headed, developing toward. And it's kind of the same concept of like we don't want to like shove it down their face, down their throat. Like we don't want to use the blockchain terminology. We don't want you to sign in with a wallet. Like we want you to just come play the game, come get your cool digital collectibles, right? And then It's like, oh shit, like this actually has value, and like that's how we want to sneak it on people and uh, bring it to them, kind of Trojan horse in a way.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's actually a pretty solid segment, and I think we can actually get started with like kind of like the baseline stuff that I wanted to chat with you about. It's 11:11 now, and I think we've had some people in here now. So thanks everyone for tuning in and listening. For those of you listening to the recording, enjoy. But I guess I kind of just wanted to start off by like having you give us more of a little detail behind like Catch King, like what do you guys do and where you came from, just so for the listeners who aren't like familiar with you can get to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, the best way to describe Catch King is a combination of a bunch of game genres. So, at its core, we're a collectathon. So, you're progressing through the world, finding new items, and like your overall objective is to complete a collection log and progress through that. So, what's a similar game to that? Like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, that sort of game. We're also blended in with a lot of elements of like old school MMOs. So if you're familiar with old school RuneScape, World of Warcraft, we have like that progression system, and we're modeling our economy after like old school RuneScape specifically, pretty heavily, and the trading that goes on within that. And then lastly, we also blend in a lot of elements of like dungeon crawling, like roguelites. We have procedurally generated dungeons, and a lot of the collecting and exploring that you're doing is happening in those. So that's the basis of what our game is. We're trying to appeal to both casual players and more like try hard execution based players that like, roguelites and like fighting mobs. We have two different types of dungeons that exist in the game: harvest dungeons and exploration dungeons. And those are meant to cater to the different like player types. One is much more like casual, take your time, explore, find things, kind of Animal Crossing esque. And the other is much more of like a traditional like Binding of Isaac, enter the dungeon, like roguelite, enter a room, fight mobs, go to the next room. And the idea is that the loot from each of these feed into each other. So the loot from one benefits the other dungeon, and we can encourage player to player trading and that active economy through that. Yeah, so that's
Gotcha.
the most top down overview of the game.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I mean, I like the gameplay style. I've been a fan of Catching for a while now, and I think it's been like I love the art too. By the way, I think it's super cool. I like that pixel style. But that's super interesting when you were mentioning earlier, actually, about like kind of how you're offering the ability for users to be on chain and off chain for their like gaming experience. I'm assuming that the collectibles that they get are going to be on chain NFTs, right?
Yeah, so the way that we do that is a little different. We basically treat the game and everything in the game as Web 2. There's like a read only connection to your wallet where we can check for your skins and items that you have. But basically, it's all happening on a Web 2 normal database, and all your items are stored on that. And then we have an extraction or deposit point. And you can take, so let's say you hit a legendary item that you intend to sell on Magic Eden. You can take that, extract it to your wallet, and then that's when I say optional blockchain use and backed by the blockchain. So it like we axe it from the Web2 database, mint it onto the chain, and like vice versa. If you wanted to take something that you bought and it's in your wallet, we burn it from the chain, put it into the Web2 database. Yeah, and that's the approach we have. It allows it so that you can play the full game without access to the NFTs. And it removes a lot of like friction. Like you don't need the wallet to sign in. You don't need to know what a blockchain is. You don't need to pay transaction fees unless you're actually, intending to sell that item. And you don't have all these constant pop-ups of like confirming the transaction and signing the wallet and all that.
Quick question: what is the game built on, and what platform is it being used to disperse? Is it a web application?
So we're built on Godot, if you're familiar with that. Um, it is a client. So right now you can get it through Elixir. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but you do have to download it. It's not web-based.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, do you plan on maintaining it so that it has to be via like app usage for the game, or do you want it to be a web-based system at some point?
I believe the plan is to keep it in a client. We eventually want to expand to mobile and port over to mobile as well. That's where a lot of the gaming market is. Yeah, but we're keeping it as a download. It gives us more like depth to the textures and the movement, and like it allows us to make the game smoother and prettier.
Yeah, no, interesting. I think it's definitely important to be able to like consider the whole mobile aspect of the gaming ecosystem, because I mean there's so many people on their phones. I think like what game share for mobiles is like 50% or something like that. Some absurd number that's like you'd have to be insane not to try to tap into that market. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are interested in the mobile space. I think it's important. But cool. I mean that's like super interesting, and I guess kind of like where I wanted to go on to this is like where how many people do you have working on this game, and like how long has this game been like in inception, in creation? Like how long have you guys been in the Solana ecosystem for?
Yeah, so we minted our collection at the end of January. So it's been, and we were working on it as a blockchain game or with intents to make an NFT like 3 months prior to that. And then one of the developers, this was sort of his passion project in just making a video game at first before it became, a blockchain project. And we like expanded the team. So it was, let's see, it was in production by one guy as a passion project for like, I want to say like 9 months. And then the rest of the team came on with intents to make it, or part of the rest of the team came on with intents to make an NFT. And that was like 3 months. And then we minted in January. And now here we are. So it's been in the works as a blockchain game for about a year, and it's been in development prior to that as well. Um, yeah, the team, we're actually a pretty small team. There's three of us on the core team, and then there's two others that are hired full time, and a couple other people that we contract on and off. Yeah, but we're a small team, and we just like to prove ourselves by putting the product in front of people over and over. It's kind of always been our philosophy. Like we had prior to our mint, we had a demo out, which at the time was like unheard of for a blockchain game. And we're currently in a closed beta for a section of our game that we call the social hub. And that's kind of our development trajectory as we continue to like make one aspect of the game, put it in front of people, test it, polish it, and then eventually give it to all our holders. And then we'll continue to like follow that pattern of just proving over and over that we're capable because we are a small team.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's small teams have a benefit of being like lean in the sense that you can pivot on like a dime's notice if something changes in the ecosystem. So I like that, right? Like there's more power to having a small team sometimes than other people give credit to. So it's exciting to see you guys like reaffirming that belief in my that I've had. Um, Curious though, so like, do you plan on maintaining? Is that small team like something by design, or have you like had considerations for expanding? And if not, like why the size? You know?
Oh, that's an interesting question. We definitely want to expand to the team a little bit, but I think keeping it lean for exactly the reason you said, like it allows you to pivot so much easier, especially as an NFT project. That's super important. Um, yeah, but we have plans to add on some more people. Um, I mean, right now we're admittedly kind of just treading water and trying to get through this bear market. So we're definitely not expanding the team and hiking up our operation costs right now, but it's hopefully something that we can do in the future.
Yeah, I think prioritizing a runway in the current market is going to be something that's very important. So yeah, no, kudos to you guys, and it's a smart choice. So I mean, how has the market impacted you? I know that we've had a lot of like negative sentiments around NFTs. I think really first starting off, at least for projects specifically, with like Magic Eden when they announced 0% royalties. I knew a lot of projects kind of gotten up in arms about that. But now with the overall sentiment and like cryptocurrencies being down, how's that impacted you guys even further?
Yeah. Um, I mean, admittedly, it's been painful. Um, Royalties were a big reason why we got into NFTs in the first place. It was just such a cool concept of aligning the incentives between the holders and the project, and kind of a big part of our monetization model was that we just wanted to get as many people into the game as possible, don't gate it behind an NFT, and then just have them trading back and forth, and then we take our royalties off that. Um, and we thought that was such a cool way to make money as a gaming company and kind of change that narrative. Um, so we'll see what happens with royalties. Um, I think that as a gaming project compared to other projects, royalties going away doesn't like kill us, right? Like it hurts, but there's a lot of ways to monetize a video game. So that's not like a horrible event for us. Um,
Yeah.
the other side of that is, I mean, FTX, right? So
Yeah.
another horrible event. We weren't like directly affected by FTX. Like we didn't store any funds there. Our runway's fine. We stabled up the majority of our funds a while back, like anticipating this bear market. I think we stabled most of it at around 120 USD. So like we're fine in terms of runway. And we dodged the bullet with FTX, but it's just all about like the sentiment of people, right? Like people aren't going to be buying. New people aren't coming in right now. Like I was saying earlier, I think like one of the bigger challenges is like how do you make non-crypto native people feel comfortable with this again? Like they're just going to be so terrified of connecting a credit card or a bank account or like anything blockchain related is going to scare them now. So I think that's the new challenge. And the other part of this is just being an NFT project, you're always fighting for attention, right? And specifically being a gaming project, it's hard to get that because we're slower, right? Like people want those fast flips. Most people in the space are here to make money, so the attention economy is super important. Um, and maintaining your community and like keeping their attention is always a challenge, especially now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's gonna be really interesting when we have like case studies in the future, from like a marketing perspective, for example, when people really look back towards NFTs and like kind of realize like the importance of having like a community centric product, right? Because I mean, like, I don't necessarily think that even before there was anything like this where um, people really flocked to an NFT beyond just the PFP because of the community, right? Like people bought in because they spent time with other people that they enjoyed hanging out with, which was such an interesting social phenomenon to me, where like that actually became a main selling point for some of the NFTs that I actually bought into. So I think it's a very understated concept around kind of like um, prioritizing communities and like the attention economy that you're so right is like so prevalent within the ecosystem here, especially during the quick flip days, right? Like it seemed like there was a new project each like couple of days and people were like buying in, flipping, and then switching and then buying into another one and just recycling that same process. But it's like the kind of communities that you found along the way throughout that process that made you want to stay in those projects for longer than just a quick flip, which I think is interesting. But I think that when we were talking about earlier, talking about the importance of the technology in the future, I think that that's just going to be where the staple begins. Like people are going to look into projects, look at the underlying technology, and then be impressed by the community, and then stay for longer. So I guess I kind of wanted to ask you a question then around like what you guys have been doing to kind of like grow your brand awareness and just the IP behind Catch King.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on the community a little more before I answer this one.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. You were talking about like you stay for the community. I feel like it's such a weird concept because a lot of times you're left feeling like a sucker if you like fell for the community. Like, I don't know, you buy in and then it's like everyone took their flip and dipped, and then you're just like, hello, like, is anyone here? Um, so that's a weird, I don't know. I feel like they're like manipulating. I don't know if it's the project's manipulating it, if it's the people in
Mm,
it, but it feels like they're manipulating this like social element, and
like socially
using it.
engineering the environment.
Yeah, it's strange. But the flip side of that is that like as a gaming project, it's been really cool to have the community and like they're so involved. Like this is never a
Yeah.
process that is like this in a game normally, right? Like they're giving us ideas all the time, like they're play testing with us, they're talking to us all the time. I know like our project specifically, like we're very active in our Discord,
Mm.
myself and like the devs. So I think it's really cool to have this relationship with the community. Um, yeah, it's definitely a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think specifically for games.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was like one of the main reasons that I actually got into NFT projects in the beginning was because I had the opportunity to talk to founders and to talk to people actually building out these things that I was invested in. I was never one to get into like speculations and quick flips. I was one to invest in like underlying communities, founders, and technologies. And so I always found it a really cool concept when I could like enter a community and actually have like a direct conversation with someone building out the game, like the founder himself or herself. And like that was such a novel concept to me because before I'd never even like perceived that it'd be possible for me to reach out to someone actually building something like this, like someone so busy and someone who would take the time out to have a conversation with me. Like for example, if I like pinged like Zuckerberg at Meta or something, like no, there's no way I'd ever get a response from that man. But the fact that I could get into an NFT community, have a conversation with the founder, and like kind of express my thoughts was such a cool thing to me, and it made me really want to stay. I don't necessarily think though, like going back to what you were mentioning about like the whole social engineering thing. I don't necessarily think that that's like the main ploy of most projects, though it is definitely a consideration, I guess, with community managers and stuff like that. But I think it's just something that kind of like naturally forms, right? Because people invest their money into a project, and sure, there's going to be people who flip out. But I think the main hope is that even after those people flip out, there are going to be people who stay, and those ones are going to be the ones that advocate for what you're doing and like that draw in attention for new users who come into the Discord, for example, and see these active members and like, oh wow, this is like a place where people hang out and just have the opportunity to chat. I think that's a really cool concept, right? Because like you could really be spending your time anywhere else, but you're spending the time having conversations with others here in this Discord server for this game that you believe in or this project that you believe in. And I think that's really like uplifting.
Yeah, definitely. It's very uplifting. It's a very cool novel concept. It just popped into my head while you were talking about it, the like Ken Founders sleep meme that's been going around, like that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
it's weird because it's, I don't know, part of what's so cool about NFTs is that you have this direct relationship, especially in smaller communities, is that you have this direct relationship with the team and the founders and the developers. I know at Catch King, this is something we've been trying to learn how to manage, is that like we're burning ourselves out because we're on all the time. And like part of what's cool about the project about NFTs is like, oh, like I can talk to the developers all the time. They're always on Discord. But then we're learning like, man, like I need to like sleep more and like eat and like go outside every now and then. So I don't know, it's just something that came to my
Yeah.
mind.
No, that's a really good point because like when I really think about it, like this space moves at a hyper speed, right? Like we've only been in the ecosystem for about a year and a half on Solana at least. And like for myself personally, I've been working in like Web3 for like the last 7 or 8 months now, and like I work like every day, including the weekends, and like that's just like on and off time throughout the day doing stuff. So I'm not necessarily ever off, and I'm always on my phone if I have to communicate with anyone or do anything along those lines. But I never really think about like what it would mean like for me to take a break to stop because I'm like so passionate about what I'm doing. But you're right, like the whole fatigue and burnout is something that needs to be watched. What have you personally been doing to kind of like circumnavigate that, or like at least like relax a little bit more? Like what's your free time look like?
So me personally,
Yeah.
I've just recently discovered this. I am taking slow mornings now, and I've found that it
Nice.
is a huge benefit on like my like mental state of mind. Like I wake up, I don't touch my phone, I don't touch my computer for at least an hour, like hour and a half
Okay.
ideally. Um, and like that is like so valuable, especially because you're saying like we work all the time. When I'm not on my computer, I'm on my phone. I'm still accessible. I don't take weekends. Like just having that, like I think you need as a human being, like you need that little bit
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah.
The other thing is like we haven't landed on like a system yet, but like I've been pushing for this on our team. Like we need to have specific off days. Like we need to have
Mm.
like okay, like myself, Soup, like I get off on Tuesday and like I'm not gonna touch the computer on Tuesday at all. Um, I think I don't know, like I think you just have to take time off. Like as much as you can, as much as you are passionate about the project and you care about
Hmm.
it and you never want to leave, I think your productivity suffers a lot and I think your mental health suffers a lot. But like
Hmm.
the productivity is a big thing. Like you have to take time off or you're just gonna like sit there and be like pseudo productive, but you're always online. So it like
Yeah.
feels like you're working a shit ton, but like you probably would have been more productive if you like took 30 minutes and then came back, you know?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that was like for me, I kind of got into oh wow, I got into my professional career while I'm still in college, but this was like during like the COVID onset, and so I worked at like a Web2 company full time, but fully remote. And so I realized first and foremost how much more productive I was because I was able to get the things done that I needed to get done, and then I had the time off to like do whatever else I wanted to, and like I could really manage myself so much better then. But then transitioning into the Web3 space, it's more along the lines of like just being on all the time and connected all the time, where it's a very much different mentality for me. Like I look at this more as like a passion than actually as like a profession, I guess, which is like good and bad. But if you're like spending so much time online, so much time like intaking information, I think it is important for you to take like a little bit moment to like kind of like take some time off, like really think of yourself as a human being rather than a machine at the end of the day. Like for me personally, like I take like 30 minutes to meditate either every night or every morning when I wake up or go to bed before going to bed. And that just helps me like collect my thoughts and like kind of like ruminate on what I've done throughout the day before or the day earlier or what I plan on doing for the day after, just depending on when I meditate. And I find like that's like one of like the best practices for myself to keep myself aligned and like keep things like moving forward and productive. But yeah, it's important for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's just more on a personal note. That's something I was into meditation. That's such a weird sentence. I was into meditation. I was practicing meditation on and off for like 2 or 3 months of my life and was
Mm,
really enjoying it. And it's something that I haven't been doing recently. And yeah, that's super beneficial. Kudos to you.
yeah. Yeah. Well, here's your reminder to get back into it then. All right. Well, I mean, so beyond, let's get back to the work stuff, right? But beyond like the what I was mentioning before with like the kind of building up the IP and like the marketing side of things, right? I think it's like kind of important, especially for us within the ecosystem, to kind of work together in the sense of like creating partnerships and like building like cross-branded promotional stuff because I think it's important, especially going through like the bearish sentiment. And like that's what we're doing here, right? We're having a conversation in Twitter space. We're talking about each other, and we're learning more about each other. So I mean, like, what have you guys been doing to kind of like boost your like your branding and your IP, going beyond just like something internal, like with like technology and showcasing the game, and extending it towards like building the IP and brand? Like, what have you guys been doing?
Yeah, so we actually had a big push for exactly this, for building the brand, building the IP. Man, how long ago was it? I want to say 2 months ago now, maybe a month and a half. We had this ascending ceremony where it was essentially a PFP upgrade. You can
Oh
see
yeah, I
some
saw
of the
that.
people. Yeah, like if you look in the crowd right now, there's Talon. He has the pixel art PFP, and then there's Pancake and Neat. They have
Mm-hmm.
like the ascended catching. And this was just like you can spend our utility token, or you could spend Solana, upgrade your profile picture. And this was just like very much for like bolstering our community. Like we want people to make connections with the PFP that they have and the characters that they own. And we wanted to strengthen our brand. We something that we noticed is that we have like a very passionate community in our Discord and on our Twitter, and people weren't wearing the profile pictures. So we were like, man, like as NFTs, a lot of the time the profile picture is that first point of contact, and that it's that foot in the door to be like, hey, like, oh, that's a cool picture. Like I see so and so on Twitter talking all the time, and he's wearing that picture. Like, what is that? Right, and that's the foot in the door. And we were just like feeling like our project was lacking in that aspect. So we took the time. We did this huge art upgrade, and I think that it was pretty successful. We definitely it released at a poor time, unfortunately, when the market was starting to tank. But I think that growing that personal brand is really important. The other part that you were talking about is cross branding with other projects. That is something that we actually haven't explored that much outside of what we're doing now, right? Like Twitter Spaces. We've been looking at ways to implement that into our game, but it's a fine line because we don't want to make our game like a Fortnite lobby of NFT projects. I think that would be rather off-putting to Web2 players. So we're trying to find like a pleasurable, I don't know what the word is. We're trying to find like the sweet spot of the way to
Yeah,
do that,
happy
where
medium.
yeah, it doesn't ruin our personal IP, and like it
Hmm.
doesn't make it this like Fortnite lobby feeling when you go into play Catch King. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm curious what you guys are doing. I mean, Twitter Spaces are huge. I'm curious how impactful you feel that has been as well, because it's something that I've upped my frequency of doing for Catch King a lot. Um,
Hmm.
and I find that it's often the same people, or it doesn't have like a measurable outcome. Like, let's see, like Neat and Pancake are in the crowd. Like they listen to like 90% of the spaces I do. And it's like,
Mm.
is this actually growing my outreach? Like my follower count
Yeah.
doesn't really go up. Like, is this actually beneficial? So yeah, I'm curious what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really important for you to use kind of all the marketing measures that you have available to kind of like grow your brand presence. And I think that like having like Twitter spaces like this, for example, makes things a lot easier for you to communicate kind of your messaging to an audience, to just your general audience, to be honest, because more often than not, NFT projects might have like some more complicated information around the actual project itself. And it's necessary for you to have an open dialogue where you could like show and present this in like a very digestible manner, that's still very informative, and then allow for people to come on if they have questions to kind of address that, right? I think it's a very beneficial thing because like someone might have a question that is like very much applicable to someone else's question, because people often think the same or alike at least. And so it really helps us to be able to articulate kind of what we're trying to do. Like for example, with this whole with this what we're doing with our Zany list, right? Is we're trying to create like a comprehensive list of like the movers and shakers of the Web3 gaming space, the people who are actually like creating stuff and like maintaining themselves and building throughout the bear market, for example. Where, for example, if you wanted to reach out to one of these projects within our ecosystem or our network, you could reach out and ask them to join you for a partnership for a Twitter space so you can have a conversation. And like that's super beneficial and that's super necessary because then that also like helps you bridge the gap between your community and someone else's community without having to dive too deep into like, for example, creating like that Fortnite lobby for your environment, right? Like that's you're right, that's like can be very off-putting, especially if it's not done well. Um, so I think being able to like partner up in the sense of like communicating with each other's communities through Twitter Spaces is super important. And like realistically, and I think this is such an interesting phenomenon that like so many people, at least crypto native users, flock to Twitter specifically to have like their communities, like for showcasing stuff, announcing stuff, and then even having Twitter Spaces and stuff. It seems like Twitter Spaces were built specifically for NFT communities, or at least that's what I've been seeing more often than not than anything else now. I know before you had people on like Web2 or like traditional people talking about random things, but now all I see is like crypto native things. And so I think that's super interesting. And that's a testament to where people get their information, right? And regardless of if you do, this is like kind of my thought behind it too. Like regardless of if you do see the same people in each space, like that's super cool, and it's like great to hear them like being dedicated and stuff. But you have to remember that you have the ability to have a recorded audio that you can present to other people as well, and like share that with like a broader community, and people can come in and listen to it if they don't have the availability to tune in live, which I think is super cool. Like for example, we had like 140 something like listeners in our last space, and that was from the recording. Like that was from the postmortem when they came in and they tuned in afterwards. And we because we only had like 20 or something in a live audience, and so like there is real outreach, right? It extends beyond simply what you see in your audience base currently, and I think that's a really cool and really helpful thing about the Twitter Space stuff.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think that you're definitely right that Twitter is where crypto people seem to get their information. Twitter spaces are often where they hang out. I know, I don't know, I feel like often I'm doing these gaming spaces with other projects and like the potential outreach is like feels like it's kind of capped at like a small amount. Like there's the crowd that I bring in, there's the crowd that the other project brings in, and like that's it. Whereas you look to like I hate show and villain spaces, but like you look to like show and villain or like Frank with these like huge crowds, and you're like, I want to like go on there and I want to tell them about the game on there. Um, but it's like I don't know, it's weird because it's not what they're talking about ever, and it's not what they're interested in. It feels like, I don't know, I would kind of be going up there and like preaching all these general things about gaming that I do so often on Spaces, where it's like, this is fun first. We're a real game. It's not a Ponzi, and like, and then I take my turn like pitching what our game is, right? Um, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think there's something like that really adds a personal touch to like being able to communicate with someone else, like via the smaller space, this more intimate space, because like people can come in and listen to the recording and feel that. Sure, there's like so many people in like the live session for like the Shill and Villain stuff, but I wonder how many people actually go back and listen to the recordings later on. I really don't feel like anyone does, because I feel like all the substance or the content is the same each time, and it's like really repetitive and like not really beneficial to listen to. I don't like it personally.
I think it I think it highly depends on the quality of the space as well. I feel like a lot of the times, people like Shill and Villain do spaces to, talk about some bullshit that no one really cares, but people are still tuning in because, um, to be honest, he is relevant, right, in the space, and people find him entertaining. So it's not really people tuning into the space to gather more information, but rather they see it more as a entertainment platform or an entertainment outlet, rather than listening to alpha in a sense. And I think I think I generally do agree with what you're saying with Frank's spaces. I think a lot of the time he gets on spaces to talk about something really specific, for example, a topic about royalties, and it's pretty hard to chime in from a gaming perspective, um, because there's honestly not that much to chime in about. Being a game ourselves, we do know what you're actually talking about, and we're kind of in the same plight as well. But I think generally we still do think that doing these Twitter spaces are better than not doing these Twitter spaces, because we're showing up very frequently. We're trying to get more and more partners to come on to the spaces to promote their game as well. And just like what Spizup has said, we've got more than 150 people on these spaces, um, through recordings, of course, because not everyone can listen it to it live, and most of the people listen to it in their own time. And we still do think that these people are real audiences that actually tuned in and want to hear more about what we're actually building. And I think that's a good thing rather than a bad thing. I think in terms of major adoption towards crypto games, um, I do agree that in terms of attention span, us at Zoolana as well, we are having some troubles, in terms of retaining people's attention. And yeah, sometimes we are scratching our heads thinking, what the fuck are we doing wrong? We're putting out game content, it's exciting, putting out quality content, and then Frank comes along and just say hey, and then gets like fucking over 100 fucking thousand likes, and we're like scratching our heads. What the fuck is going on in this space? Like, what is up? And sometimes you just gotta understand that being relevant and staying relevant is a highly debatable thing, in a sense where people see what they want to see as entertaining, and whatever remains their attention span is going to get the attention that they want to give. And I think in terms of how crypto games are going to shine is, yeah, dude, it's truly not going to be the web3 audience that we're trying so hard to obtain their audience, like their attention from, but rather it's going to be the web2 players that are going to really pop one of us off.
Yeah. I think to your point earlier, like being doing Twitter Spaces is better than not doing Twitter Spaces, right? I think visibility and consistency is something that people take note of. If they're like, "Oh, I always see Zoolana hosting spaces. I always see Catch King hosting spaces," like that signals to them that we're hard at work, right? Which is, I don't know, it's kind of ironic because I'm not working on something right now. I'm talking to you instead. Um, but I think a big piece of this is like, how do we make this more entertaining? Like how can we combine information and like alpha and like talking about games and things that our direct communities are interested in, and how do we make it more entertaining so we can expand further? Like, I don't know, you go to a shill and villain space and they're just fucking yelling at each other the whole time. Like, do I need to like start fake beef with you guys? Like, is that how we grow the gaming space? I'm not sure.
One, yes. Two, another thing that would help. I wonder if we could do game shows or something like that. Like have some kind of like competition or games going on in spaces. Like actually, I mean, radio has been a medium for years and years. Clearly, TV has been a medium for years and years. Like these things are often more planned than people jumping on and just kind of chatting about the industry. So there probably is an opportunity here as well to actually plan content in a way more similar to like traditional entertainment.
Yeah. I wonder if I feel like there needs to be like a different medium than Twitter Spaces specifically for gaming, because it's so hard to like, even when I explain what Catch King is, like I don't know how vivid of a picture I'm painting in your mind, where I could like literally, if this was like a YouTube live stream or a Twitch live stream, like I could literally show you the game, right? Um,
Yeah, that's
so
a good
I
point.
wonder if that's something that should be explored more, by like the gaming
Yeah,
community here.
I think it'd be interesting. Like you have the option now to pin tweets and stuff, but like, what if you could pin like a live stream or something like that? And like, there's an API that like calls to like Twitch or something, and you could just have something going off in the background. People could be watching it while you have conversations, like with live feeds. I think that's something that could be desirable for Twitter, but we'll have to see if Elon has that stuff set up. He seems to be having a little bit of a hard time already, so we'll see.
Maybe it was experimental or I'm imagining it, but I swear I saw Easy Eats doing like a Twitter live stream once, like months ago. I wonder if it was like a beta feature that they axed.
No, I think you can do live streams through Twitter. I think Breakpoint actually might have been live streamed through Twitter.
Oh,
Really
really?
I
interesting. That's something to
I
look
think
into for sure.
so. I would bet 75-25, something like that, that you can. But it isn't really like a space. Like I'm not sure if there's like a comment feature. Not that there is much of a comment feature here. I suppose it is just kind of passively consuming the content. But yeah,
That
that could be a
is,
good option.
yeah, that's one thing that I've actually found like really desirable for me as a listener though on Twitter Spaces is like I've had moments where like I want to comment. Like there's a little button right now on the bottom right that looks like I should be able to comment, but it's not necessarily the same thing, right? Like commenting on a Twitter post is not the same as commenting during a live feed. So I think that's something that should also be updated. But I mean, yeah, we'll see.
The only thing I can do is send these emojis.
Yeah, the next best thing.
Yeah, why do I need to say anything? This is perfect.
Hey, let me talk to Elon. I've got some ideas for Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, he needs a new engineer. If you're an engineer, he'll offer you a job.
Yeah, you might get fired in a week, but
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that actually? Like, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff where like I'm seeing both sides of the story where like people are saying that Elon is warranted for firing all these people, and then the other side, it's like the people who have actually been working for the teams have been like advocating for their own teams and what they've been doing. What do you guys think?
I think I think it's like partially just a strategy to be taken seriously as like the new owner of this. He just needs to like lay down the law, be like, I'm the man now. Um, I don't know. I feel like I don't have too much to add to this conversation. Like I I don't know if it's the right decision to fire Twitter employees or keep their Twitter employees. Like I have no idea what their internal work culture is like. I know that he axed like working from home. I I don't know. Sometimes that's the right move, sometimes it's not, right? So I think it all just depends, and I don't really know what's going on the inside. Um, I am curious what you guys think about the verification badges. I see that you have one. What's your name? Spizzerp. I I fucking hate the new badge system. It's just like it feels like you're paying to hack the algorithm, and like the importance of the badge, in my opinion, has just plummeted. Like it used to mean something, and now it's just like I paid $8.
Yeah, no, 100%. So the main reason that I got it before was because I thought that having a badge verification would mean that I would get less bot spams. Like they would do something on the back end to have more of like an attention to users who spend the $8. Because like I'm tired of getting like spammed in my notifications. Like my feed is like not even like real stuff anymore. It's more like just people pinging me for things like fake stuff and like wanting to scam me, and it's like super annoying. Um, so I thought that was like the main reason behind it, and or that was what he was trying to do, but obviously that's not the case, right? So to your point, I think that it has really devalued like real authentication. Like for example, I've been seeing like memes recently where like huge like Fortune 50 companies are losing market share value because someone has been impersonating them on Twitter and then saying outlandish things, and then people have been taking that as like the real company, and then actually like selling stock in those companies.
Well, I think actually that was kind of fake news.
I've seen
Um,
a couple different ones,
with
but
the
maybe it
one
is
there was
fake news.
specifically one about a pharmaceutical company, like the insulin is free now. Um, but the day that the stock dipped, it was like a number of other pharmaceutical companies also dipped a similar amount, and it was kind of just
Gotcha.
coincidence that the tweet went out the same day, which
So
makes
then
sense
be
because it doesn't make any fucking sense. There's no like prop trader sitting in the firm like,
yeah.
oh, they just insulin is free now. Oh, sell everything. Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, I think people are smarter than that.
Well, then beyond the corporations, I've also seen politicians, and this one might be actually more legitimate. Like politicians coming out and saying that like people impersonating them has been detrimental to their like overall like campaigns and like to kind of the way the public has perceived them and their branding, as a public figure, which I could
Uh,
see being more of a thing.
Yeah, I did see a crazy thread from Ted Cruz talking about his human wife, which I think was all fake. So
I think, yeah, no, impersonating is like the most obvious flaw of this new badge system. And it's just like, I don't know, Elon tweeted out, he's like, you'll be permanently banned if you impersonate people. It's like, they don't fucking care, dude. Like, they're making a joke. It's an $8 joke. Like, they'll just make a new account. I don't understand his logic.
How true is it though that if you get that Twitter verification badge, that your analytics or your engagements will significantly increase? Is that the case? Like, is that even true?
I think a lot of
I
that stuff is
mean,
going to be skewed from the old data. I mean, the new data and the old data is going to be completely different. You know,
Hi, Blake.
what up?
Let's go. You guys know each other? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
we go way back with everybody in here.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
done
okay.
quite a few Twitter spaces with this guy. He's representing Guild Saga.
Yeah, we did. I think at this point we did two with them as well, right, Blake?
yeah, yeah. Me stopping by, this is the third.
Awesome.
yeah, pleasure to have you back with us then. But to what you were saying earlier, DD. To be honest, no, I don't think I've noticed any difference in my engagement. But like, I never really was like adamant about making a public voice on my personal account ever before. So maybe I'll try harder this time and we'll see how things go, and I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, dude, post some crazy shit about FTX and get like 10,000 likes. That's the game. That's the way to engagement farm right now.
Yeah, Brick, can you tell me a little bit more about that? How do I hack the algorithm?
dude, I'm fucking famous. I don't know if you guys saw this tweet. Okay, I will say when I put it out, I thought it was 100% confirmed. I was reading SBF's blog from when he was at MIT, and he shared a link to his League account. And when I clicked on the link to see the League account, it was currently active. So I was like, holy fuck, this dude is playing League in the midst of all this crisis. So I put out a tweet about it. It has like 3,000 likes or something insane. By far the most engagement I've ever gotten. And then people started commenting a bit like a few hours into it being posted, people were saying, this might have been his account at one time, but he's probably changed his name and then someone else has taken it, so it's not his account anymore. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I guess it's kind of fake news now, but it's not the most harmful thing. And I don't know. I don't want to take it down. I feel like it shows that I'm a success in life, and my parents should be proud of me.
I
So
believed it, dude. I thought that shit was hilarious.
Did you
yeah,
sweat his game? Did you check him out? Was he playing like ARAM or was he playing
he
Mint? What was
was.
he doing?
He was. So here's the thing. Actually, his real account is pretty public as well because he's posted the link that he had on his blog is to his old username, which he has since changed from and someone else has taken. But his current account is still public, so you can go and see the activity. I just don't think he's played in the past few days. But okay, this is the ridiculous thing as well. Despite the league thing being fake news ish, literally that New York Times article that was posted yesterday or the day before, in it, he's quoted as saying this weekend he's been playing Storybook Brawl and just kind of like chilling around the house. So it isn't even fucking fake. It's like literally this dude is like just sitting at home and chilling while the rest of the world is like begging for his arrest. I don't. It's
And
still
shilling the
crazy.
game that he helped buy out or whatever.
Yeah, they literally own the game as well, dude. That New York Times article. That's like, I don't know. That was so disappointing to me. Like before this whole over this whole saga developing, I've just been kind of like worried and stressed because, an industry where everyone is skeptical. That's not the industry I want to work in. Like, it's not exciting and it's not a great fundraising environment. It's just not a positive outlook for the project. But on top of that, then seeing the New York Times writing like fucking fake news, dude, that had me actually angry. Like since this weekend, I've been angry about the whole thing. All these articles that are coming out, dude, the Reuters article saying he did the banking world a favor. Oh my god, yeah, I'm just frustrated now. Like I don't even know. It's
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's
there's
crazy.
never been a story that's come out in like real media that I've like had such an inside scoop on before this.
Exactly.
It's like holy shit. Like there is hardly anything accurate about this, which is it's just unbelievable.
And another thing too is that like what journalism is like pursuing the truth. And in that article, like the New York Times article in particular, at one point he says part of the reason for the hole in the balance sheet is that they put too much money into venture. They put $10 billion into venture capital. What? It's not. It's like nonsensical. It's almost like the words in those sentences don't even make sense. And it's insane that there was no follow up done. And it doesn't even change the fact that when you look at their balance sheet, they have maps marked down as a $600 million asset, which is just blatant fraud. There's no question. It doesn't even need investigation. It's literally like, ugh, dude, yeah, I'm getting worked up about it now. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's been really tough to see kind of the way that the mainstream media has been portraying everything going down. But I mean, to what my wife bought this was stating earlier, it's it's super interesting that we have such like a scoop on what's going on. It's like something that I never would have expected before to be on the forefront of such like a story that's like so widely like kind of being misunderstood and represented. But like, I don't know, like, is there a better way for us to go about like presenting this? Like, how could we get the real word out, right? Is there a real possibility for us to even change people's like mainstream perceptions? Like, what can we do? That's I think is the frustrating part.
Yeah, no, that's a hard fucking question. I think that I don't want to suck off Elon, but I feel like that's kind of the dream of Twitter is that this is where like real journalism can exist and like people actually look into the details and fact check each other and it's just like this social phenomenon of finding the news together. Um,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the
have you
dream.
guys seen that Elon has been promoting some of the like fact following and fact finding threads like during this whole debacle? I don't know if y'all seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that actually, but there's pros and cons in community, I guess community journalism or people journalism in a sense that that they've just quoted. There's just so many fake news though, because that's all. Like the FTX saga is all people can talk about right now, and so everyone's just thinking of a way to engagement farm this shit, and it's highly irritating that there's fake news being put out. Some are satire. I give it to them. It's pretty funny. People are posting some funny shit right now, but all in all, I don't think Twitter would be the best. Dude, especially when people are that fucking dumb that they just take everything as it is. Like, oh, I'll read this shit. Oh, okay, like SBF, just got arrested at Bahamas, now in custody, and then somebody is just gonna fucking believe that shit right away. And then, majority is that dumb that they wouldn't even ask, like, oh, where's the source from? And they're like, oh, my source? I heard it from someone else. Like, who the fuck is someone else? Right? And I feel like that's the main problem right now with all this shit posting on Twitter is that there's just so many fake news to filter out through your own. And ultimately, if someone outside of Web3 comes in, they're just going to believe that shit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, SBF doesn't even know what happened. How are we supposed to?
I think it's a larger problem than that though. Like at least for like the way people digest information, right? I mean, like the people who like really listen to mainstream media never really had a need to kind of like question things, and I think like being on Twitter, for example, has made me like more susceptible to like doing my own research and trying to sift through the fake news, right? The people who are like listening to like or reading like the Times are just like digesting things that are presented to them and not really fact checking anything beyond that because it's a reputable source, quote unquote. And I'm sure that like SBF had stipulations before going into the interview where he was like, "You can only ask me these questions. I will only answer these things, and this is how I'm going to answer them." And they were like, "Fuck it. Like, if you're going to come on and we'll get people to actually like watch this or listen to this, then like we'll let you say whatever you want to say." So I think that's like a huge problem with the mainstream media because they are fighting hand over fist from like social platforms like this for user attention, and like that's just going to be how it's going to be. But I think it definitely would be interesting to see a shift towards sentiment where people are more on Twitter for information, but sifting through the bots is hard.
Bro, and fucking Suzu and Kyle came back to Twitter and started shitting on FTX like they haven't done anything wrong, and it's all because of FTX. That's why we lost our funds. It's not like, fuck you, dude. Like, your whole job is risk management, all right? That's like your fucking job. Risk management versus, the the amount of money that you're supposed to bring in. And they fucked it up. And now that FTX so called fucked it up bigger than them, they they're just trying to pin it all on FTX as the narrative. And dude, Carl even fucking he went on CNBC. I don't know if you guys seen that. It's crazy that people are still giving him and Suzu attention as well. Even fucking Do Kwon went on Up Only. That's like the craziest thing to me, that someone that literally destroyed that many lives just went on Up Only smiling and fucking talked about his position on the whole thing as if like he didn't just fucking dupe the whole ecosystem out of billions of dollars.
Yeah. Catch King, you had something to say. You unmuted a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was a solution. It just feels like news is all about engagement and clicks now, and um, even the trusted sources are not, doing their due diligence. So I don't know. You guys are getting worked up about it, and I'm right there with you. I feel like there isn't a solution yet. So I don't know. Maybe I've already given up.
Yeah, it's hard not to be pessimistic when you see this stuff happening over and over again. I just think that hopefully we get to a point where like through the technology that we're all advocating so hard for, transparency becomes something easier for us to identify, right? Um, I think it'd be cool, for example, if like somehow like mainstream journalism like incorporated like blockchain technology to like verify like the author behind it, where the author got its sources, and like even like maybe like geolocation, if it was something like a piece dedicated towards a specific region or area. I don't know. I think there's like ways for us to come with something in the future, but we're just not quite there yet. And I think it's just gonna have to like take some time for us trudging through like all this shit storm for us to actually get to that point. But fingers crossed that we reach it eventually, right? I mean, I'm an optimist by nature, so I'm just gonna keep pushing for it.
Yeah, the decentralized like data storage is a step in the right direction, a first step at least.
Yeah. Is there anyone doing anything like that in the ecosystem?
Yeah, what's the name of the big one that Solana used to use?
I'm not sure.
What is this? Anyone doing what?
The decentralized like data storage, so that they can't
Oh,
be like
Genesis
tampered with.
Go. Yeah.
Well,
Well, there's
Genesis Go is
Arweave is
Thank you,
multi-chain,
Arweave.
and Genesis Go is like the newer solution.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. But Arweave is a good like example. I know a lot of people were storing a lot of like information from the war there, and a lot of the crimes from the war and stuff were all saved there, so they can't be tampered with.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that. That's actually fascinating. That's like where, yeah, that's where Web3 is really interesting. It's like actual applications of the tech to solve problems, like not shitcoin number 44 promising some product that is yet to be defined. Like when you can actually apply the tech and solve a problem that exists right now, that's really cool. I had a buddy that I met through at one of the parties at NFT NYC, and he was building smart contract escrow solutions for energy companies to pay. I don't know who. I don't know if it was like the infrastructure systems paying the energy companies or energy companies paying their vendors. But basically, like helping these corporations that make like $20 million payments every quarter, $100 million payments, creating an escrow system on chain so they don't actually have to go through the banks and lose like the massive fees that they would lose to the banks. So it is interesting to see Web3 actually solving real problems.
Yeah, like the whole like legal documents being served through NFT is kind of cool because they like know that you can't avoid it. They find out your whatever your address is and just airdrop legal documents in there, and it's like, okay, well, we know you got it. So
Oh, that's interesting. That
Yeah,
would never work for me. I have no idea what's in my fucking wallet, but
well, they know you have it.
yeah.
that's a wild application. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's just finding stuff that like blockchain can disrupt within traditional industries that makes it something that's actually viable for future use, right? Like if it doesn't solve any problems, then like cool. Like what's the point then? Like beyond just a PFP, right? So I think it's cool to see like the projects, blockchains beyond just actually doing stuff that is like real use cases. That's what like I'm hoping for more of in the future. But like to what Brick was saying earlier, like I was so frustrated when I'd see so many like shitcoin projects just come out and like just do like stupid things and then like garner so much attention and then have no use case and then they just like fizzle out. Like that's liquidity that could have gone to like something else that's actually been trying to build. So I'm hoping that it changes in the future for through this bear market, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean it's 12:09. We've already passed an hour now. Um, how's everyone doing for time? Should we close it off or what's up with everybody?
Um, I think this is a good point to close it off with. I've been enjoying the discussion, but I do have a lot of other things to get to today.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Catch King, for joining us today. For everyone listening in the recording, and if you're unfamiliar with Catch King, please check them out. You can see their Twitter right there. And then for other individuals who are unfamiliar with what we're doing here on Zoolana with our Zany list, please go ahead and check out our Zoolana page as well as the Zany list page, and then apply for our Zany list if you're interested in becoming a member of a exclusive ecosystem or network of Web3 gaming ecosystem builders. We're trying to get the right people in contact with the right people so that we can start building more stuff through partnerships like this, through the bear market, for example. So go ahead, check it out.
Did we have any date on anything, Spiz? Like anything to look for on the horizon for Zanilist?
Yeah, we've got some stuff going down. We can't really commit to a hard date yet, but we're aiming for something by the end of the month. So stay tuned on the Zanny List stuff. Going forward in the future, we'll be having some pretty cool stuff, some showcases for our Zany List NFT heroes, actually. So keep out an eye on our Zoolana Twitter account for some showcases and stuff around their like some pretty cool entrance animations, if I do say so myself. They look pretty dope. So keep an eye out for that stuff. And we'll have more Twitter spaces in the future. We're actually trying to do something closer towards our Zany List application deadline, where we bring on a bunch of our partners that we've chatted with throughout these weeks and upcoming weeks to have like a very comprehensive, large roundtable conversation around pretty much just like the Web3 gaming ecosystem, which I think will be pretty fun and interesting. So people can look forward to that stuff.
Yeah, I just want to say if you guys want to try or you have any ideas for different mediums that we can try to bring these conversations to, maybe reach different audiences, like we were talking about earlier, like Twitch, YouTube, Twitch streams, I'm super down. In Lisbon, I was talking to the Remnant guys and Kaiju Cards about doing that as well. I definitely have some other people I could bring to that as well. Yeah, and I'll just say we we didn't talk a ton about Cash King during this space, but if you guys haven't heard of us, I encourage you to hop in our Discord, check us out. We're super friendly, down to earth people. We can walk you through anything. If you haven't played the demo before, check it out. It's on catchking.io is the website. You can try the demo yourself. It's a little dated now, but you can get a feel for what the game is like. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day or evening. Goodbye.
All right. Peace out, guys. Talk soon.